All right, guys. Should be a fun day today. We got lots to talk about. I think I'm up like 70K or something on the day. It's been quite a transformation from where we were just a few weeks ago when everybody was losing their mind about the Japanese carry trade. It's kind of fascinating when you think about how quickly markets move and how quickly despair turns into greed. And I don't even think we're near that point yet. But again, it's just a fascinating thing that ties in with markets is human psychology, and I think it's underrated by most. All right, let's just take a look here. So those Tesla calls doing pretty good, up 8%. So getting an almost 3-to-1 ratio versus the underlying asset, which I love. Only up about 78% on the investment, but 332,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And this is my main account, not all of it. So I'm super stoked about that. It looks like TMF was up today, the 20-year. Was up by 1.35. We haven't quite closed. We got 6 seconds left. That's a pretty good number. SoFi, ridiculous, up 6.5%. Hitting that what is it? 750 range, roughly 746 on here. That's beautiful. That's right up against resistance. We'll talk about that in a little bit. PayPal starting to get some steam, roughly 2x multiplier versus the underlying asset on that one with recent calls. The other ones, the 140s from 2025 didn't even move. Those won't really move until the price just starts screaming. If we get into the 90 range, then those might get interesting and start to come alive, giving some people exit liquidity. But outside of that, again, crypto market kind of sideways. Flux up 5.3%, ETH down 45% or 0.45%. Clean Spark up 1.5 roughly. DLO up 1.61. ARCG up 2.27. Let's see what those underlying calls were doing. It looks like nothing today. Super quiet. The 2025 is still kind of dead. And the 2026 is making no noise at all, even though the price target is 50, and that is a less than a double for that to be able to happen here in the next, 16, 17 months. I think that's very possible. So I think there's a lot of good things happening right now. I think we're going to make a lot of money. And even though it was a $70,000 day, I'm not sweating it. Economic data. Today was really quiet. We had the leading economic indicator. I'm talking about that more in depth in regard to a post that I did. Outside of that, nothing really. We got Redbook year over year on Tuesday. It will be interesting to see what the New York Fed does with Treasury purchases. So that's probably one of the only things I'm really paying attention to between now and Wednesday, when we get FOMC minutes and the Jackson Hole Symposium starts. Friday's probably the day where we'll really get the bulk of the messaging. That's when we'll get an interview from Jerome Powell. And so we'll see. We might get tidbits before that, and maybe they'll try and telegraph before that. Who knows, with Nikki leaks or something like that. But it'll all be about Jackson Hole starting Wednesday on. So that should be fun. CNN Fear and Greed Index almost to neutral. Nah, not quite. I mean 41, but getting closer. Very interesting how quickly this turned around again. We were as low as, let's see here. We were as low as 17 in extreme fear, one of the lowest levels we've been at in a very, very long time, since basically the last time before the pandemic. And so these are some big depths here that we're seeing. And then if we look at the crypto fear and greed index, it's actually even lower, still just a hair above extreme greed, extreme fear, which is great. So we're really set up for a bounce in the Bitcoin world, and Bitcoin right now, as I say this, is at 59,000, which I can just see going higher. Now there's a video I'm going to do shortly after this one. It's going to be tonight. It's good. It's an interview with Jack Mallers. Now I won't be interviewing him. I'll be watching it, but I want to talk to a couple of the points that he makes in there. If you've ever had a question of like how is Bitcoin going to do well versus things like gold and other things that people use to hedge during economic downturns or during moments of inflation or deflation even, this will be a great video for you. He also talks to the fact of why Bitcoin can't be controlled like the gold market could, with all the paper trading and the fact that the price was suppressed for decades. Because of companies like JP Morgan and others that were literally found guilty of suppressing the price of gold with paper trades. You don't have that problem with Bitcoin, and we'll go into what some of that is too. It's a really great interview, and I think it'll hopefully teach you guys a lot. All right, let's get into it today. So, next thing I want to jump into, let's look at, I want to do this actually too. I want to go to the layoff tracker. I just want to see what this looks like. I might just throw this in real quickly each day because I want to see in the tech sector what's kind of happened recently. So, we got 819. Let's sort by date here. So we don't have any major, well, let me see. Let me scroll up. Now that I've done this, I need to go higher. All right, so let's see. We don't have any Cisco, 5,900 employees, 8.9. That's the last. So it's been about 10 days since we got like a major employer that was letting people go, and it was Cisco, and it was the San Francisco Bay Area, of course. Everybody's running away from that. So we'll probably add this too, just to kind of keep track and gauge what's going on. If we look right now, we're at 133,000 almost layoffs in the tech sector for 2024, but we're also halfway through August. So we're about 3/4 of the way or 75% through the year. Now, if you look at 2023, we've got about half the number that we had before, but we're 3/4 of the way through the year. So actually layoffs are looking better than they did in 2023. And in 2022 they were better too. So it looks like 2023 was the big dump in regard to that. All right. One of the next things I want to look at, I'll try and keep up with Shaq here too. JPM spoofing services. Yeah, just all kinds of bullshit that banks were doing and these big trading brokers were doing in order to be able to control the price and make tons of money. And screw people, average everyday investors at the same time. But they can't do that with Bitcoin. So if you want to know why, you got to watch this video. Albert, today's a good day, and we're still at Fear 41. You got to love it, man. Concord, I'll be flying for most of the day on Wednesday, so hopefully things turn out well by the time I land. It'll probably be Friday when we get the bulk of it, so I wouldn't expect too much on Wednesday. Maybe, but I doubt it. Albert, can't BTC price be more or less controlled by over-the-counter trading from big players? Yeah, but understanding big players is really important, right? So 1% of the supply is held by roughly MicroStrategy right now. 1%. And they're the biggest corporation involved in investing in Bitcoin. So can over-the-counter trading cause these kind of problems? I'm going to say it's really difficult for that to be true. Or I'm sorry, less than 1% to be clear too with MicroStrategy. So there's just not enough of anybody that owns that holds Bitcoin to be able to consistently manipulate the price. Because if they do sell it, then they don't have it, right? So then they'd have to buy it back. And again, you could do when you have such small percentages, like even a MicroStrategy can't even move the market that much, and the governments can't move the market that much. So can you play around with it? Sure, but can you do a good job suppressing the price? Not for long. You can't because you're fighting real demand and you're fighting a fixed supply. But again, this video will talk more about that as well. Jesse, if you had 10K to play with, what asset or assets would you jump into? I don't know what you're in. I'm not a financial advisor. Right now, though, I think Bitcoin looks juicy as hell. I think Tesla looks great. All the option plays that I'm in right now, I love immensely. So it's really up to you, man. Split it however you think you should. It depends on how long your time frame is too. But again, I like diversification in different directions that are asymmetric in opportunity. That's what I specialize in. Sealess. Got to pay people too much in SF, San Francisco. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Concord. Over OTC. For people who don't know, OTC is over-the-counter trading. Moves BTC price less than regular spot trading. Yes, I would agree with that, Concord. That's why many larger purchases happen in OTC. Yeah, that's the whole point. They happen in OTC. People buy the physical Bitcoin and hold it so that they can get it in bulk and hopefully at a reduced price. Now, again, you could try and paper trade that way. You're just not going to find enough supply consistently day after day in order to be able to manipulate the market. And plus, even if that was happening, you could see it. That's the big difference. You've got a pseudo-anonymous ledger where companies like Chain Analysis have done tons of research and identifying who is what. And they watch all of this. So if you had a big entity that was manipulating the market, unlike what happened with JP Morgan and gold, you couldn't do that. You just couldn't do that with Bitcoin because people would see it and they'd be able to identify it. And there's plenty of people that watch the ledger, from governments to individuals to corporations. So it's just not the same thing. All right, hit the like, guys. Christopher Brown. Somebody gave a fist. I got more likes, more likes. Yes, hit the likes. That's great if you guys would do that. Chatting, hitting the likes, subscribing, whatever you guys want to do to support. It's all super helpful. All right, so let's jump in here. So we're going to go into the U.S. economy. We're going to start off here with my boy Tom Lee, because he's brilliant and he always provides a lot of insight. So he said Friday is the most important day of the week. Before that, this is his group, his company that he works for. How am I not following them? I guess I just followed Tom. Anyway, Fed chair remarks at Jackson Hole likely to solidify that 8.5 was the summer low. Agreed. This coming week is the most important week for August 2024 because the Jackson Hole Symposium and Fed Chair Powell speaks on August 23rd, Friday. Last week on 8/13, we noted that markets shifted to risk on premised on a benign CPI. And then they just show here in their image, they show what happened in 2021. Jackson Hole happened, not a lot, went up 2%. 2022, Powell let the markets know that inflation was not transitory and that we were going to destroy the markets. And he did that. Big drop. Then 2023, Wall Street closes higher after Fed Chair Powell delivers a Goldilocks speech opening. So I would expect something closer to that. I expect him to downplay some of the economic data and how bad things are doing because he doesn't want to spook markets regardless of political affiliation. It doesn't matter. He wants markets to be confident, right? So he's going to downplay that. And then at the same time, he's going to indicate that we're doing a rate cut. Also, that the Jackson Mueller interview that I'm going to be doing after this is great because he speaks to the fact that he doesn't even believe that the Fed will have to lower rates in September or will want to do that because of risks that can occur from doing so. And I think that's another great part of this interview that we're going to touch on. All right, let's scroll down here. So bar chart put up, Jerome Powell will indicate that the Fed is open to a 50 bips interest rate cut during a speech at Jackson Hole Symposium, according to the analysts from Evercore. We'll see if that's true. I know it was two, but it's drifting slowly towards one rate cut. I think that's what we're likely to see. I do think we're likely to see one. All right, so I wanted to show this. Zero Hedge had put this up. He said, U.S. leading economic indicators plunged for 29th month, worse than COVID lockdowns. So you could read this article. I actually like Zero Hedge for a number of reasons, but I also counter trade a lot off of what Tyler Durden says. So if you look here, we're actually at the lowest level since the pandemic, like they said. It's just rock bottom, right? So my argument is after the last time that happened, we skyrocketed. And so I'll speak to that because somebody said, well, yeah, but we had all the stimulus. So last time, the S&P launched 120% in less than 2 years when the lay indicator was this bad, right? So I would argue that the Japanese carry trade on a number of levels, especially technical levels of all different kinds, was extreme bottom. The VIX was a great example of that. Again, if we go back to the VIX here, we saw the worst VIX levels. Let me actually this isn't the VIX, but I'm going to use this so I can get it up on my screen. So we saw the worst VIX levels, actually the third worst event in 35 years, right? And the strongest drop in VIX crush in history as we dropped from where we were at the peak of it less than 2 weeks ago. We've dropped almost 75%. The only other two times that we ever got this high was the pandemic in 2020 and then the 2008 great financial crisis. And the Fed opened up swap lines and made everything go away with the Japanese carry trade concerns in one fell swoop, like I told you they were going to do. And so my argument right now is that we've seen, again, a number of indicators that have indicated that we've already hit the bottom. And somebody said, hey, but we don't have all the money printing that we had before. I completely disagree with that. If you look at the economic cycle, this is when the money printing kicks in. Also, if you look at either of these political candidates, all they're doing is talking about spending money. And then if you look at Kamala, especially if by some miracle or disaster she won, the money printer would be on a level of burr like we've never seen before. And that over the short term would still send us higher. I actually don't see many paths that send us higher. The only path I see is that all of a sudden, whatever politician gets elected is all of a sudden heavy on taxation, and they're doing everything else to try and devastate the economy without providing liquidity, or spending money, I should say. And who is doing that? Which candidate is not going to spend money, even if they're going to tax corporations like Kamala wants to do, or long-term capital gains? We'll see. I haven't looked through all of her policy; it just got released. There's people are going to be going through that with a fine-tooth comb. But 92 pages, and no Bitcoin, no crypto, guys, no crypto. So it's going to be interesting. But again, so I would argue that no matter what happens, the market is going up. And I just want to make sure that people are clear on where I stand in regard to that, and why. So again, the leading economic indicator, if it's leading in anything, it's telling you when to buy the dip, is my take. All right, let's scroll down here. 63 counterparties take just a bunch of people buying in for the reverse repo. Don't have too much to say on that right now. Probably more tomorrow. Oil continues to drop towards the highs in the 60s. So I think 68, 69, I think we'll get to these kind of levels maybe, or at the very least, maybe take a break at 70, but I think we can drop lower. And if we look over here at oil, we could see we're at about 73 right now. Without some major event, I could see us trying to touch down here and getting into the oversold territory again on oil. Again, you have to think too, it's definitely advantageous for the Biden administration to do whatever they can within their power to help suppress the price of oil. I don't know what that would all entail, but I think, oil production is at all-time highs. And without any major events in the Middle East or other things going on in Russia, I guess Ukraine invading Russia doesn't even count anymore. I think people are just really overdone when it comes to worrying about the price of oil. Because if you worried about the price of oil going a lot higher since March of 2022, and you bet on that happening, all you've done is lose money. And on the weekly time frame, again, we are under the 200 weekly moving average. This is the first time that we've been under this average since it started breaking above it in January of 2021. So you've got 3.5 years or something where this thing has been underneath of it and it's starting to break higher. So the oscillation again is going to start pushing us lower and lower, I think, until it eventually exhausts. And maybe we even drop under 60. It's possible. All right. Let's just real quickly listen to a previous Fed who I didn't like for a while because he was anti-Bitcoin in 2017, but has since completely changed his mind and is supporting Bitcoin companies and affiliated with them, and who is more than happy to speak his mind on economic policy. So let's listen to former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton talking about his thoughts on Trump versus Kamala's economic policies. And I bring these up to be less about politics, more about you understanding what experts believe between these two policies.
Here's what I think the right message is and why I expect that the Trump message is going to be more appealing when you look at it closely, which is, where does growth come from? Growth can come from a couple of things. Energy. If we have lower energy costs, that's going to reduce the impact on consumers. It's also going to foster growth. If we continue to be tech leaders, when we're tech leaders, we get the benefit of growth around the globe. We only have 360 million people. There's 8 billion people in the world. When they get hooked in to a digital economy, we all benefit greatly. Capital allocation. We're better at allocating capital than anybody else in the world. 4% of the world population, we allocate over 50% of the world's government. Focus on those things and competence in government. That's how you get real growth. That's how you get real wage growth for the people in the middle 80% of the economy. Yeah. This idea that you're going to go out and sort of say some prices are good and some prices are bad.
Right.
It's
So again, I think he touched on everything there that needs to be said. Energy, growth, leaders in technology. We can't have price controls. We have to try and work towards fiscal responsibility. It was beautiful. It's short. It's concise. It's the right message. And anybody with any sense whatsoever believes that. I played a video earlier in my political video that had David Freeberg from the All In podcast. Any of you guys are big business people. These guys are billionaires and they talk about whatever they want to talk about. Friedberg a week ago was talking about how, hey, don't prejudge Kamala. She's going to do great, blah, 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 blah. This week, he's like, I hate socialism. It's horrific. This plan is incredibly ridiculous if she's looking to do price controls. So quite the shift. And again, I think very indicative of what a lot of people that are in business or investing or whatever are taking away from Kamala Harris as they realize she has no Bitcoin and crypto plan. She wants to tax corporations. She wants to do price controls. She wants to do all the stuff her daddy taught her when he was a Marxist economist working at, what was it, Stanford? He's a ridiculous human being. She's a ridiculous human being when it comes to this stuff. They don't know business and they don't understand what's made this country so great for the last several hundred years, which is kind of bad, right? All right. So again, speaking to my other point about global liquidity, and why we're going to just continue to go up and why this is lining up so perfectly. This is a little bit different than Michael Howell's version of global liquidity, but again, it's great. This is oh no, this is the exact same. It says source cross-border capital. So even the Financial Times use Michael Howell's work in order to be able to figure out global liquidity. But you can see here how clearly it was defined previously, but also in other cycles from peaks to highs are really close. And this isn't even the full one. It goes back even further, and it looks great. But this projection and the way it's played out that I've been watching, especially in the last like 4 or 5 years, is ridiculously accurate. I mean, look from where we were in 2019. This model was built before that, and look at how tightly it met with the peak and how tightly it met with the trough, and then where we're headed right now. It's just a thing of beauty. Ryan Detrick, same as it ever was, only this time a few bad days caused as much fear as we could normally see in bear markets and corrections. So this is the put-call ratio. It's showing the peaks that have occurred, and it's showing what's happened with price action after those peaks. And this goes back, a long ways. I don't know exactly what year, but it's a ways back. And so again, you can see what the next likely path is. So I wanted to share that. Gold, just yesterday or the day before, was at an all-time high. We can check it actually right now. Let's see how we're doing. And then we're going to look at some other financial indicators too, and then we'll get into stocks and Bitcoin and all the goodies. But yeah, again, the 2,500 plus range, we're just sitting at it. I expect this to go higher. Gold is the shittier Bitcoin. It's the one that can be price controlled and manipulated. It's not the best option, but it is up like 30% in 13 years. So I guess that's okay. Not really, but that's where we are. All right, real quickly, I want to run through some other stuff. Let's look at the heat map before we get too far down here. So looking at the traditional markets, just a sea of green today. Again, just everybody's still excited. I expect this to continue into tomorrow. We don't really have any big fears. Maybe in the latter part of tomorrow or into Wednesday, people get a little scared about the Jackson Symposium. I don't think they will be. I think if anything, they're going to be excited. But looks beautiful. Crypto, Bitcoin outperforming a lot of the rest. I mean, look at some of the big guys, Ethereum and Solana, some of the biggest that are out there. Bitcoin's outperforming them. There's some others that are doing good, but it's kind of a mixed bag of nuts on the rest. Definitely probably the total market cap, having worse performance recently versus Bitcoin itself. All right, let's see where else we want to go. So let's look at the indices. So we got the S&P today looking gorgeous. This is not a bearish pattern. I told you guys last week before I headed out on vacation for my daughter's karate tournament, which she crushed, by the way, that we needed to see some continuation. And if we saw that continuation, then it would really nullify this shoulder head, and that we would be looking at a bullish breakout. And again, the .618 was resistance before. I got a feeling we touch that probably even tomorrow on the S&P. And then guess where the next path is, guys? It's up, and this is a ferocious bounce. I would expect that to continue with rates going down. It might start a clock that the Fed is starting to lower rates, but as I've shown you guys numerous times, there are a bunch of times where the Fed has started to lower rates, especially in the 90s, 80s, and even in the 2000 range, where rates were lowered and it didn't cause an imminent collapse. So this is something that you need to pay attention to and understand. It's not the end of the world immediately. There's a lot of other things that need to come into play to make it a problem. Let's go to the NASDAQ, and then we'll go into the Russell, and then a couple other indicators, and then I'll start looking at your guys' questions. and interact a little bit more. The NASDAQ, again, a great day. This is just a stupid bounce. Definitely nullifies anything that could have been looked at as bearish in price action. So the NASDAQ was up 1.32%, outperforming the less than 1% S&P. When we look at the Russell, the small caps, we see them in great outperformance. They didn't outperform the NASDAQ, but they did outperform the S&P. And you can see how the bounce is really kicking in here. Sorry, my back hurts. I'm waiting on a chiropractic adjustment for Wednesday, too. Got a lot of pain in my lower back. But yeah, so the Russell should start, I believe, outperforming both the Nasdaq and the S&P here soon. We just need to see those rates roll over or get that indication from Powell between Wednesday and Friday, and I think that's exactly what we're going to get. Now let's go to the dollar. The dollar. This is another thing we're going to be talking about is dollar strength in this Jack Mallers video that we're going to be going over. Very important stuff. Now, if we look here, you can see how the dollar is still, it's trending down. It's trying to find a support level. I think that it can potentially do that. It all depends on how liquid the Treasury is and what they're doing with swap lines and some other things that can be a little more opaque. If they're propping up Japan, we could see this weaken even more. So we'll see what happens. But again, check out that Jack Mallers video to get to understand the dollar, the bond markets, Bitcoin, and how all this stuff connects. It's a really great video. All right, let me see here. So let's move on to the MOVE index. So we saw that the stock index was just, or the VIX, the stock volatility index was just crushed. Again, we're seeing that same kind of thing in the bonds. We actually ended up closing a little flat today, but if you look at this over a longer time frame, it looks like it's weakening, and that's great. That's what we want to see. We want to see this thing drop more. And so as long as that continues to happen and the VIX continues to drop and stabilize, it should be go for the markets, and that's what I expect. The two-year Treasury is at it went up 0.49%. So again, it's kind of maintaining. I do think this is the rollover level, though. We could get up here to like the 4.4 range. I doubt it, though. I think we're just going to roll over. It might take a while. It could take weeks, but I do think that this thing's going to try and test at least lower. Doesn't have to. Again, we've already seen, if you look here, actually it's kind of crazy on the 2-year. Look at the bearish divergence that we have on the RSI for the 2-year, where it's trying to pull this thing down and then it was going up and it's finally started to break down. But we could see some rollover. I think that mostly between like the 4% range and the 3% range is where we're going to trade for a while. The 2 to 10-year inversion continued to break down. So we're staying uninverted like I've been saying for a while. I see that continuing. The Japanese yen. The yen, it looks like the dollar weakened against the yen. This, again, I think that the swap lines are working really good, and Japan and the USA are happy because of it. So we like that. We like to see that that's happening. It looks like the Chinese, the dollar too is weakening against the Chinese yuan, but not by as much as what we were looking at in the yen. The yen was 0.6% down, and the yuan was about 0.35% down. So just a little over half the drop. I do expect us to find support, though, on the yuan and start to look to go higher. Let's look at that put to call ratio. I think it's pretty devastated, too. Yeah, it is. Again, it's under the 100 monthly moving average here, and the 50, and those are all kind of converged, but and the 200. But again, incredibly depressed. Nobody's looking to short right now. Nobody's looking for insurance right now. Everybody is excited about market go up, and so that's what we're seeing. Let me look real quickly, get caught up on some comments. I will. Again, make sure you hit like if you haven't already. Jeff L. Wondering, can't the ETFs manipulate Bitcoin's price? No, not really. If you could explain to me how they're going to be able to, Jeff. Silas, the idea with OTC Bitcoin is to accumulate without a price response. That is the idea. Now, could you accumulate a bunch in OTC and then dump those into the traditional market? You could, but you're just not going to be able to buy enough in OTC to be able to move the price. That's the problem. It would take too long. It just doesn't work. There's way more. It's way more. Again, you have to realize in the gold markets, you could just have a crazy amount of paper versus the underlying asset, and you could make it to where you could really manipulate that. It's not easy to do that with Bitcoin, And I'm not going to fully tell you why because I want you to watch this other video. Anyway, all right, keep going. Palo Alto Networks reporting, plus, nice. Mr. Casper, CleanSpark showing strength. Yes, I think a lot of them are. We'll look at miners and Bitcoin here in a second. Heinz in, Pan W up 4% in after hours. Great. I think, is that the Nancy Pelosi stock? Les Walter, market goes up for a while, but what about Bitcoin if Kamala Harris gets in? It'll be weird. Over the short term, you'll probably have a lot of Republicans that'll look to sell out of the markets because they think Kamala Harris is horrible for the economy. And I would agree that's probably that's all true. That's all very, 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 very true. But you'll see probably Democrats that are pro Kamala Harris buying into the markets. It's very political as far as the rotation you'll see. So you'll see some politically driven trading. So I think over the short term you could see a drop, but I think that the long term, when people actually look at Kamala's policies, they're going to be like, oh, hey, this is going to destroy America, but also help Bitcoin's price action. So that's my take. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, it'll probably be good for Bitcoin. I mean, it'll be bad and it'll be good. She's not pro Bitcoin. She's not pro crypto. There could be issues that we have with, especially if the rumor is true about her reappointing Gary Gensler. That would be horrible. And so we could see that they could start going after the inlets and outlets for Bitcoin. I don't think they can. I think it would be a political suicide. There's just a lot to think about, but I do think that it's probably a dip and then the price goes up too when people realize that she's horrible for America, but will benefit Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin has a controlled supply, and it reduces every 4 years, and it's the only currency on earth that's like that. There's nothing ever that's been built that is similar in nature or transparent or has a ledger that you can validate all information against. It's just, we've never had anything like Bitcoin. So people will realize that, and they'll realize the need for it, Republican or Democrat, the need to preserve your own wealth and not watch it eroded away by some insane politician will be just as great for both political parties. C-list, too close to election for a 0.5% cut. Why? Heinz, let me see. Les Walter, market goes up for a while, but what about, oh yeah, I already read that one. Silas, she'll say and do whatever for power. I agree. Is BNB anything more than a store brand? I don't think BNB is worth anything. I don't like crypto exchanges that have their own tokens that they trade. I think Coinbase was smart to not get in that game. Every other one you'll look at is pretty much either falling apart and seeing a reduction in usage, or again, they manipulated the system and they broke themselves. Whether it be like that just happens. It's just, I don't know. I don't like betting on the token for exchanges. I don't think it's a great idea. It's too easy for the exchange to be corrupted by the money printing they're giving themselves. Just like the federal government, man. It's the same shit, right? You give an exchange the ability to print money and then be like, hey, wow, we've got these little gimmicks to be able to give you some better returns, or we'll burn some of the supply in order to be able to get it to where the price goes up. Like they're gimmicks that allow them to be able to kind of be a money printer. Even if they're kind of gimmicks in the opposite direction, that's still what they're doing. And with that comes great responsibility. And I think very few can manage that correctly, including Binance. So I don't love the token thing at all. Paul Hoger, hey Jesse, check on Fubo, flying on good news. Any thoughts? Yeah, I think the federal ruling or whatever, or at least the judicial ruling, I should say, was in their favor, and so they're getting a bump. I wouldn't touch Fubo though. I don't like anything about it, but I can look at it later. Vote for Kamala if you like Gary. I like the way he spelled that. All right, I'm going to jump, but isn't BNB one of the top holders of Bitcoin? They are, right? Because people have their money in it. It's just like with BlackRock. People are like, and don't get me wrong, with BlackRock, there's probably there's probably more danger there because you have BlackRock being a large entity that can actually, vote for some of these companies because they control such a large share. So they can manipulate the companies more. So with the BlackRock one, it's probably like a better narrative. But for Bitcoin, no, it's not. And we'll look at Bitcoin here too, spread out by country of control, and we'll see that in a second here and talk about it. Coin is pretty much Coinbase's token. Yeah, it's not though. It's a stock. So it's not the same thing. One of them is heavily regulated by the federal government. The other one is not, right? The other one is like an in limbo thing that they could do very covertly. They don't have they don't have quarterly reporting requirements. They don't have reporting requirements based on event. They don't have any of that stuff. So it's not comparable, Amit. Jax, but isn't B&B one of the top? Oh yeah, already saw that one. All right, cool. So we're gonna move on here real quick. So I do want, let me go back over here. So I do want to finish up on this. I did want to point this out because I think everybody who's an investor should understand, irregardless of politics, that government money printing is the root of inflation. So I want to read this. I read it earlier too. Murray Rothbard said, so if chronic inflation undergone by Americans and in almost every other country is caused by the continuing creation of new money, and if in each country its governmental central bank, in the United States the Federal Reserve, is the sole monopoly source and creator of all money, who then is responsible for the blight of inflation? Who except the very institution that is solely empowered to create money, that is the Fed and the Bank of England and the Bank of Italy and other central banks itself? So I just want to be clear. The root of inflationary problems across the United States and the world throughout history, going back millennia, is from money printing, excessive money printing, which is robbery. It's the theft, right? You think taxation is theft. There was way more done to devalue people's currency and make it to where everything was more expensive than any taxation in the last 4 years. So, so just remember, this is the great stealer of wealth, and it doesn't come from corporations. It comes from the government. Also, I wanted to point this out because I think it's an economics lesson that's required. It's showing how the population, and this is in 2022, big population losers across states, and this is probably even worse with 2024 data. If I find it, I'll let you know. Maybe I can only get 2023. I don't know how often they run it, but if you look here, look at the flight from California. Look at the flight from Oregon. Look at the flight from Minnesota. Look at the flight from Illinois. Look at the flight from New York and all these other liberally run states. People are running away from them because taxation is excessive. They're mismanaged. The government is getting larger. And this is symbolic of what happens all around the world with governments, whether they be state level or whether they be at a larger level. You'll see this. You'll see that when government gets bigger, things fall apart. And so I just wanted to point to that. All right, that's it. I'm not going to go much further down the political economics lesson. We're going to skip that. So let's go to Bitcoin real quick. And before I go into this, I want to look at Bitcoin's price. There's so many good stocks right now, and everything, all these charts look great, guys. So I was saying we were at 59. Now we're at 59,223 with Bitcoin. This looks like something that wants to scream higher. This is a great looking chart. It's a great looking chart. It's just such a solid line. Here, let me just do this. I'll see if I can drag this line. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want a new one. I want to reuse the one I have. Let me see. Oh, it's locked. So I'm going to draw this a little bit. But just look at this line. Look at that line. It screams, I'm getting ready to break up. And so I would expect that to be happening here soon. And again, after this rapid impulse higher, I think we're sitting in a really good position. And if we look here at the weekly, we're testing higher. And I expect that to happen. And I expect it to happen in pretty short order. I don't think it's going to be a month. I could be proven wrong, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because we're seeing liquidity increase. And once people do the math and look at how much money printing is going to occur regardless of who's in power, and especially if Kamala's in power, I think that just sends us launching higher. And you guys can quote me on it. I'm very happy to have you guys tell me whether I'm right or wrong in the future about that one. All right, let's get through the rest of the Bitcoin crypto stuff. And then I'm going to, before we run into a deep dive into Bitcoin and a deep dive into Tesla and then the other stocks, I want to look at charts because there's just so many crazy looking charts. So today, MicroStrategy up 1.74, down a little bit in after hours, but still just such a beautiful impulse that we saw on the weekly time frame before. It looks good. Mara, let's take a look at Mara here. Again, we're seeing, if you look down at the RSI and you go back just on the daily and you go back here just to like September of 2023, higher lows in the RSI every time. So we're getting that nice nice little divergence from this downward trend that we've been on for a while now. This is up 1.23%. I expect it to go higher. Again, I think miners are finally like they've seen their bottom and they're showing price strength. Even if Bitcoin, lingers a little bit, they're showing it, and that's a good sign. I said that last week, and I'm going to reiterate it today. I think that CleanSpark is looking nice. Again, the bounce off the 200 on the weekly time frame, the continuation above the zero point 0.5 fib, pressing up against the 50 moving average on the weekly. This just looks like it wants to break higher, and it's got a gap in here too. That's pretty significant. If we go back here, even at the daily time frame, you can see this little gap right here that wants to fill. So I think that CleanSpark might be the first to launch. Cypher, let me just do this real quick. And I will look at more Bitcoin and crypto related stuff later at your guys' request, but that'll come near the end. Again, Cypher looks great. It's above the first fib. It's in between the peak volume here and the red line. It wants to break higher with viciousness to the $6 range. So that's a 50% increase if you just hold the stock, and I think that will happen in very short order. And I think that you'll see a jump up to $8 in very short order as well. This thing wants to scream higher. Every impulse where it's really rocketed up has been something where it continues that as long as Bitcoin does it. So I would expect more of that. Real quickly, we're going to dial through the rest of these, and then we'll go back and then we'll go back to Bitcoin and then go to Tesla and so on. All right, so we're going to look at Tesla's chart real quick. Again, just rolling through charts. This is a beautiful looking chart. I told you we were sitting really good. Let me see here. Let me just go back. I told you before that we did a really good job bouncing off the 100 moving average on the daily. And if we go to the weekly here, you can see too how we're just continuing. Like I think 233 is likely to come soon. I think we're likely to test. This has been such a strong. It looks almost like three white soldiers too. We just saw something like that on SoFi, but it looks like by the end of this week we could have a three white soldiers pattern into the 200 moving average on the weekly time frame. And that would be bullish as heck as we get near a trend line that goes all the way back to, let's see, November of 2021. So almost 3 years ago, this downward trend that we could only briefly break above and then not hold it at all for these other weeks. So if we accelerate into that and then we start testing this and break above and we can hold it just even for a week, it's going to be a really great sign, especially heading into 10/10 for their autonomy day. It's going to be awesome. PayPal, and again, what a day on Tesla, real quick, up 3% on the day. You can't shake a stick at that. PayPal still down so much, still down 77% from its high years ago. The high basically was in February of 2021. If you look at it, I mean, you could say that it was July of 2021, so over 3 years ago. But I really say it was closer to February, so closer to 3.5 years ago, because it was just a double top. And that's 1,280 days. And now we're seeing, let me see here real quick what this looks like. There's a lot of ways to look at this technically. But again, this was our attempt at going higher, failed. But then we got higher than that. I should actually just get rid of this. This shouldn't even be here. I'm just going to get rid of it, because the real thing that we're looking at is the fact that we could have, and I don't know if I can copy this real easy. Can I? I can. Sweet. We're looking to have potentially very soon. I'm going to say yes to this. Let me see if I can do this right. Yeah. Here's what I'm looking for, guys. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for resistance right around the 73 range. And if we get that and we end up having a higher high, this is on the weekly time frame, but on the daily, if we have our third higher high, again, first, second, third, that's going to be a great sign, and it's going to be a sign that we're getting ready to go a lot higher, in my opinion. So I'm getting very excited for us to hit that, and then even if we trade in this range for a couple of weeks, I don't even care. I think the ultimate pattern again is up, and I think that's going to be proven to be very soon here, and people will be greatly rewarded. I am currently down about 44% from my high, or I'm sorry, in my position with PayPal from everything that I own. All of the calls that I bought that were 2025 that have lost so much money, I'm only down 44% on this position. I would say that's kind of a godsend, and really not horrible considering I was a year and a half early to this play. To only be down 44% is not bad at all. And so I'm excited about it. Hood. So again, and PayPal, what was it up on today? It was up 2.16%, which is practically a rocket launch for PayPal. Hood up closed 1.5% in the day. I told you guys last week, this is such a bullish to overshoot and break down basically what would have been the full amount of the measured move if this was a head and shoulders pattern. And then to bounce the way that we are is super bullish. I'm loving my calls. I don't know if I really looked at my calls for Hood. Let's see how those are doing. Only up 2%. I'd say these are still undervalued. These calls here for 2026, because they're only up 2% on a day when Hood is up 1.6%. So to me, that's not horrible. Even though I'm saying this, I bought these at 2.03 for my average price, and it's 2.55, so it's up 21% since I bought it. So just keep that in mind, that perspective. SoFi, the three white soldiers. I think I called this the three wise men. I was sitting in a massager, and it was heavenly, so maybe that's why, at the gym, and so I was feeling really good. But again, this downward pattern, and I was talking about this earlier in the day, and it's proven me so right. Peak volumes here in red, we are closed above it, pressing up against a downward resistance line that we've never been able to close the week above. Never really, not even here. If you line this up, it didn't even do it there. So this is very exciting for a company that hasn't seen its last high was 1,295 days ago. This was the pain train. I don't know a lot of this one or own a lot of this one because it doesn't have the asymmetric bet on the options, but I think you guys who own these shares will do quite well, and I'm excited for you guys. So get ready to rock. Square is seeing strength. Again, this isn't looking bad at all. What are we up? Gosh, what are we up here? And again, I couldn't find an asymmetric bet for options on this one too. So I made a bunch of money off of this. So I'm just staying out on the sideline for now. That might change in the future, but you can't get mad at a 21% increase in price from where this thing was on August 6th, probably like the peak of the Japanese carry trade. Worries. So, I would argue that Square is looking very, very healthy. The financials don't look bad. And I think people who own this stock, I think people who own a lot of stocks really are going to do well. A lot of these that have been punished are getting ready to take off again. All right, real quick, I'm going to rock through Palantir. I still think Palantir has peaked or getting close to it. I could be wrong. There is some interestingness with it, though. So here's my theory on Palantir, and maybe I'll be wrong. I'm okay with that. I'm actually I need to dumb down and clean up a lot of this. I just got too much shit on here that does not matter anymore. But you can see this inverse head and shoulders over here that proved out really well. What's kind of fascinating is this could be considered a shoulder, a ridiculously huge head, and then maybe this is the shoulder right here, and then we broke out but really tested back hard, and now we're getting our first real breakout. So what could happen, what I think might happen, is we might start to peter out here on Palantir and roll back over for a back test of this line before we go higher. And I don't know if that plays out in days, weeks, months. Maybe we keep going up for a while. Again, the previous all-time high on this one was a long-ass time ago, too. We're looking at 1,300 days. That's a pretty long time ago. So I don't know. Maybe we continue to go up. Maybe we get up into the upper 30s. Maybe by some freak of nature we get into the 40s. It's possible, but I think you're pretty capped on this one. And you can't even be mad about it because it's up 444% since of where it was in December of 2022. So just going to throw that out there. ARKG, I think this is a super undervalued play. I don't even know if the options contracts were up that much today. I love the January 2026s on this one. We're up 2.85%. Nobody's talking about it. And I've got some of these that could play out really, really well. Even if this thing just doubles, not even doubles from where it's at, I could get 9x or something with my options play. So it's just stupid, and I think super undervalued, and I think nobody's looking at it. Everybody keeps shitting on Cathie Wood. They certainly don't think that this thing's going to perform decent at all, let alone double in the next 15, 16, 17 months like I think that it can. And so it's going to be fun if that happens in short order and this thing really starts to take off. But again, if you look here, if we go to the weekly time frame especially, and then we just drag this out, let me move it over, and then we just drag this out outside of this one little blip, and maybe I just need to go to monthly to make it look cleaner. Yeah, it doesn't really do a good job, so we'll stick with daily. But you could see here where we had this one little breakdown underneath the support zone, and it's just held great. It's held really great. And so, again, I just think that's important. I think the fact that we didn't even touch it is important, and I think that we're getting ready to scream higher, and people will go risk on, and this will be a benefactor of that. Not going to do Flux and DLO just because. And let me go over here real quick. So we're going to jump back real quickly. I'll start looking at chat again. I do want to talk to Bitcoin, especially this post from Vivek that I think is great. Not to be confused with the one who's in politics. But Vivek was pointing out here that if you look at M2 money supply and you look at the breakout ranges of M2 money supply, you could see who the benefactor was each and every time that this started to really break out. Now over here, we had the pandemic, which sent us down, but just look at what happened after that. So we are seeing, again, something that a lot of people aren't paying attention to, and that is a breakout in M2 money supply. That is a cyclical pattern that benefits Bitcoin greatly. So one could argue that the halving event, where you have a reduction in new supply every 4 years in conjunction with M2 money supply being roughly around the same as far as timing, could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin benefits so much, because it's got both of those factors playing for it, unlike just a stock that does not. Okay, so again, this is an article. It looks like it was published by Matthew Foldy. And it says that, and I don't have any validation. If you guys have more reputable sources, please let me know. But it says basically that Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren are going to be a part of the team, and that Gary Gensler is going to be reappointed or be nominated as Treasury Secretary if elected. That's crazy. Putting Gary Gensler as the Treasury Secretary sounds like a nightmare to me. I would take Janet Yellen over him. So Ryan Selkis said, glad the DNC platform is 92 pages long with no mention of crypto, but a land acknowledgement up top for the curious how fucked we are in Queen Kamala and the lush went. So this one's very political, but the first page, I don't know, read it. But 92 pages and no mention of Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin Magazine said just in, an old Italian bank, Banca Sella, now offers Bitcoin services directly on its banking platform. So you guys can just buy and sell Bitcoin in Italy through your bank. That's going to happen a lot in the United States. Maybe not if Kamala gets elected, but it's very likely to happen otherwise, because the CFTC will definitely bend towards it. Sam Baker posted 60% of the largest U.S. hedge funds hold Bitcoin ETFs. Not a single one sold over the second quarter, and most are still stacking. Here's how institutional Bitcoin adoption is still ramping. And so he's showing the amount of growth that we're seeing in these ETFs, where retail was selling because they have no conviction in what they own and don't understand it. But these guys don't have that same problem. They understand, if nothing else, global liquidity, and they understand how the Fed and Treasury works. So they know why they should own Bitcoin. Just in, spot Bitcoin ETF issuer Bitwise expands into Europe by acquiring Europe's largest physical Bitcoin ETP, think of ETF, issuer, ETC Group. That's awesome. I said that I was going to show you this earlier. It's a distribution of Bitcoin supply, but it ties it in by country of origin too. But Binance one can argue that they started off in China and they're not incorporated out of it anymore and don't really have a home base there. They do have offices, but one could argue that they're not really China anymore. But you could see Satoshi Nakamoto, Hal Finney, who's actually dead, has controlling share. Then comes BlackRock, then comes Coinbase, then comes Grayscale, then comes MicroStrategy, then comes the US government, then comes the Chinese government in a distant 8th place, then comes Fidelity Investments, then comes Block.one. So you can see how the USA, especially when you factor out the fact that Hal Finney was from the US, but he's dead. And then you look at the fact that CZ left China very quickly because the regulatory environment was bad. If you take out these two, the U.S. is the prevailing superpower in Bitcoin, and I like it that way, and unapologetically. Bitcoin Archive, $1.5 trillion Franklin Templeton has filed to launch a crypto index ETF holding Bitcoin and Ethereum initially. The money, this is signal, guys. All of this is signal. Thomas from Apollo said there are 8 billion people on the planet. 1 in 25,000 people own Bitcoin. Keep stacking. 1 in 25,000. That's an interesting metric, and it's arguable on how accurate that is. But up or down, does it really matter? If it's double that, does it really matter? If it's 1 in 12,000, I would say not. So even if you just play along with the dial, we're still super early to this, and you guys should realize that. Marty Party, this has kind of been a popular one. There's a bear market, there's a pre-bull, there's a first bull, there's a second bull. We're arguably in the first bull based on timing of the cycle. And you can see we still have a ways to go. In an environment where we're lowering rates, yahoo! And in an environment where politics are pushing politicians to say that they're going to be doing more and more and more and more to print money. This is going to be so much better than 2021's double top, guys. I just want to be clear. And again, this isn't just politics speaking from me. I believe that if Trump gets elected, we're going to go higher a lot quicker. And like I said earlier, I think if Kamala gets elected, I think Bitcoin's price drops. But then I think once people realize that the money printer really going to go burr under Kamala, even if it's at the detriment of this country, that'll be beneficial to Bitcoin as long as they don't open a ban or do something crazy like that. And again, Kamala hasn't really indicated that she is positive in Bitcoin and crypto at all. So those things aren't necessarily off the table. But I do expect, again, Bitcoin to, at least over the shorter term, to prevail and do a lot better if Trump gets elected in 3 months. Michael Saylor, the world's going to be remade through Bitcoin, the only truly global capital market. I want to listen to this. It's a good short comment from him. Let's go back.
Bitcoin is digital capital, right? The world's going to be remade. There's a digital transformation in finance taking place. Everybody on Wall Street understands it. Everybody on Capitol Hill understands it. Everybody on Main Street understands it. It's like electricity or fire or the internet. Bitcoin is the only truly global capital market in the world. And so if you think about the volatility of it, the volatility is the price that you pay in order to create billions of dollars of credit and liquidity at your fingertips. We're buying all the time. We're buying every quarter. We're buying the lows, the mids, the highs. You know, I'll be buying the top forever because I'm expecting Bitcoin will continue to appreciate as digital capital. I think physical capital, real estate capital, financial capital, people are going to sell those things and they're going to move their money into digital capital, and it's going to be a trend for a long, long time to come.
I 100% agree with that, and I think that digital capital will take small percentages, like maybe 1% of these categories, 1% of real estate, 1% of bonds, so it'll take 1%, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the fact that some of these containers hold trillions and trillions of dollars, tens of trillions of dollars, hundreds of trillions of dollars, depending upon what we're talking about. If we get into the derivatives market, that ends up being a huge number, and I don't think a lot of people understand that, but they should. Bitcoin has a 66% chance of rallying over the next 8 months. Interesting article. I'd say it's 100%. Or I shouldn't say that. Nothing's ever 100%. 99.9% is the figure I would put behind that. This is from Bitcoin Magazine. It says Bitcoin is the best money that humanity has ever had. It shows fiat deteriorating quickly, gold basically flatlining when you factor in the deterioration of fiat, and then Bitcoin making you money. And I would agree with all those statements. And then Bitcoin Magazine, only 0.26% of the world population can own one Bitcoin. We were early. And then this was a comment that I had with somebody just the other day, a couple days ago. I said they were freaking out about Bitcoin miners. Just a lot of people really disheartened right now, but they're up today. But I said Bitcoin miners will do just fine. This is how it works each cycle. I go, note, one can't assume they'll do well when the price of Bitcoin has stayed sideways for 8 to 9 months. So again, when this is what's happened for 9 months, if you're expecting to have made money off of Bitcoin, that just isn't going to be true. Because they need the price of Bitcoin to go up for them to be able to make a profit. So So I was reiterating, like, hey, I know you're beat up. I know you're beat up, but you need to look at the underlying asset and realize that that's getting ready to take off in a major way for all the macro reasons that I've listed, also the fundamental reasons that for why Bitcoin is the best digital investment on the planet, right? Because it's got a fixed supply. And again, the stuff we'll talk about in the Jack Muller's interview. Anyway, I think that there's a bunch of other stuff to always talk about in Bitcoin. I think the way I went out of this, though, it just lost my bookmark. Let me see. Yeah, so we lost it anyway, but I think we're close to the end on that one, so we'll call it. And now I'm going to jump into Tesla. I'll look at some comments real quick from you guys. Jesse, we're looking at hedges a while back. Starbucks, Best Buy, any others you'll find. Yes, we'll be talking about hedges more in the future. So again, I'll be doing the Jack Muller interview video today after this, probably a little bit after this. And I'll probably just do it live so that you guys can ask questions along the way, and I'll try and be attentive and respond to them in real time, a little more so than I do in the market recap because I'm trying to get out a lot of information at once and not get too distracted. So I'll be doing that one. I also still have that interview with Vivek and Balaji that I want to go over, just talking about deregulating the FDA and deregulating everything and how much that can benefit our economy in the U.S. In the years ahead, and how we're just aligned really great to be able to do that right now where we haven't been in the past. So that's a great conversation. That'll be my next video. I got a Bitcoin miners video that I want to do. I've got a hedging video that I want to do. But some of these are less important to me. Part of the Bitcoin miner is less important to me because I think they're all going to go up with the wave that we're seeing here, and they'll be the pick which one you want for today. The miner of the day. Oh, hey, blah, 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 blah. AI miner doing really good because NVIDIA's price is going up. Oh, hey, it looks like CleanSpark has this thing and it shot up 15% on a day because of it. We're going to see a lot of that crap going on here soon enough. So again, I'll probably, some of these things are more important to me, some are less. I try to time them to where if we're going to talk about them, they're going to be timely and they're going to be helpful and they're going to be a time where maybe people should start looking at them, in my opinion. I don't want to do things too soon. I don't want people to get in too early with things, but hedging is definitely one that as the months progress, if the market does scream higher like I think it's going to, then we will start talking more and more about hedging, and maybe I can get something out even next week, reevaluating things like Starbucks as a hedge opportunity since it outperformed and did so well, along with a few others. But I want them to be timely because I find it's really easy to get into hedging, and if your timing isn't good, it's worthless insurance. But insurance is cheap right now for puts, so I like the way that you're thinking. It is something we should take a look at, Amit. And I probably rank it even higher than the miners right now, honestly. Jax, what books or resources would you recommend for beginners in option trading? Watch my Options 101 video. I don't know much else beyond that. You need to learn the macro. You need to learn fundamentals. You need to understand these two things really well, and then technicals, and then understand that if you're getting into options, they're risky as hell, and that you should be doing them in limited use unless you have a high degree of confidence that let's say like Tesla has been really undervalued. It was at $100, and you know that the company is completely mispriced, and you're going out years on options that can give you like a 4, 5, 6, 7x return, maybe even 3 at the low end. Then they're interesting, but they can also be the devil. So I think way too many people don't understand that. I use them to dollar cost average, like with CleanSpark here recently. You could see that I had indicated that I had sold some CleanSpark stock and that I was buying the calls. I still think these calls are stupid cheap. They're for July 18th of 2025, so they're only like 11 months, right? So we got to see some movement in the price, but they're 37 calls, and that might seem outrageous. But if you just look at CleanSpark real quick here, and where we were even just in March at $24, our ability to get back to 24 in short order is very high. And so if we have just a crazy run and I get like a 3 or 4x, I'll probably convert this stuff back over to CleanSpark shares and have a lot more of them than I would have had. I won't get too greedy, but if I get a double to triple versus the underlying. And again, let's just look at this real quick here. If CleanSpark just gets to 24, I should be able to get a 2 to 3x the underlying pretty easily. And again, I think honestly, even up to 33 is not a crazy number. That's a 175% increase. It sounds like a lot, but if you look here at the kind of moves that we've seen in short order within the price, within the trading ranges of very short periods of time for CleanSpark, you can see that it's violent. It's violent upside moves, and then a long sideways downward chop, and then violent moves, and then in this case a strong drop, but then a violent move, and then a long sideways chop. This thing will be sick. It will be violent. And if I can get a 3 to 4x and then convert that stuff over when it gets to like 25 or something, I'll probably do that with the majority of it. At least my initial contributions will be back in CleanSpark stock again. So that's kind of the way I look at it with these, and I'm excited. There's times where you do this stuff, and again, I did it for CleanSpark because I used it as dollar cost averaging, which I don't do often. For over a year and a half, I told people not to be involved in options for Bitcoin and related investments. Only in this last week did I actually do this and recommend it in any way as not a financial advisor. Let me see. So would you agree that Bitcoin, Sela said, would you agree that Bitcoin surges past 100K, that it would make sense to sell Cypher, then CleanSpark, and only then MicroStrategy and that? Maybe. Yeah, I would sell some. I'll sell a decent chunk of those things. When we get to 92, I'll sell a little bit just to take some money off the table. I would sell option contracts on any of this stuff. So like the CleanSpark stuff, if we get to 92, yes, I will sell the vast majority of my options contracts and convert that back over into CleanSpark and maybe some other Bitcoin related investments. At 100K though, I think we're going much higher than that. I wouldn't really look to get out of those things until closer to 150. But you're right, I would do it roughly in that order. I'd probably get rid of shit coins and all. I wouldn't have any Bitcoin related options, and I would get rid of some of the miners first, and then MicroStrategy would be the next thing, depending upon how they launch. Because if MicroStrategy is 3x the underlying, that gets pretty stupid too. So. But yeah, I would get rid of all those things, and then I would hold probably just Bitcoin-related ETFs, and then I would look at hedging plays that give me protection with downside risk. Once we got to the 150, I'd start edging into hedging plays for Bitcoin-related downside, and I would do that more aggressively the higher and higher and higher we went, while selling some of these other investments. And so that's the plan, and I will, as usual, I will make sure to just telegraph that the entire way to you guys. Tyler Casamenti, I know you hate China stocks, but what are your thoughts on BABA? I think BABA is shit. I think it's shit because it's in China, and I don't want people trading garbage. I'll look at it real quick, and then I'll probably just reiterate that it's garbage. I don't even have it on my stock ticker list because that's how much I hate people investing in China-related stocks. China is over 300% indebted. The world is on average about over 300%, like 320, 330% debt to GDP on average. Outside of the United States, the United States is about 129% debt to GDP. Maybe it's like 125 to 129%, which is bad. China is probably 330 plus right now for debt to GDP when you include their shadow banking and all the crap that goes on with them. So I personally do not like the idea whatsoever of people investing in a country like that, one where foreign direct investment is fleeing in mass, one where they have a population collapse that's one of the worst of any major economy on earth because they had a one-child policy for over a decade, it might even be close to two. It's just, there's so many horrific things that are set up for China's economy. I think it will steal your money. So I can't tell people at all to get excited about this. I know one of my friends, Jake, talks about this kind of shit. Could it go up to 122? Yeah, but people will be fucked off of this company and off of Chinese related companies that they invest in. And so I just can't look them up on a daily basis, and I won't say good things about them, and I won't focus on it. So if you want that kind of stuff, you'll have to go somewhere else. It's not going to be me. Chris Federal, BTBT picked up its second HPC customer, Bit Digital. Q2 numbers look good to me for a growth company. Cool. Yeah, again, I'll go over miners, and I'll probably divvy them up a little bit between AI and traditional miners. None of it's going to matter, though. They're all going to have good headlines. That's when all the headlines come up. Because everybody knows that, oh, hey, we should release that one thing, so our stock goes up 50% in the next week. There's just times where you release a lot of good information, and they'll all do that. And then they'll all have a good reason to, because the financials will be looking good. So they'll all fly. Alexander Doe, I want to get into March 2025, or $250 2025 contracts for Tesla, but waiting for a pullback. But should I get in now? I don't know about those specific contracts, man. I don't like things that are that short. Personally, for Tesla, I like the 2026 better. But so you'll have to just weigh it with the options video. But I don't think you're going to get a major retrace that you're looking for. Not with the Fed rates coming down here soon. Not with 1010 coming. There's so many reasons for Tesla stock to fly. The opportunity to buy it was during the Japanese carry trade when I was buying it. Sealess options almost wiped my portfolio out in 2020. They can totally do that. They caused me to go bankrupt during the great financial crisis. So, because I didn't know what I was doing. So they can destroy you. Yeah, and you were sloppy. Yeah. So again, you just have to realize that adding the layer of timing and theta decay into the process, there's a reason why you get a multiplier. There's a reason why I recommend at least a 3 to 10x multiplier, right? Because you want these things to be asymmetric upside so that your downside risk, if it's 100% potential loss, which it is with options, which you don't really see with stocks, right? At least not to the same degree, because you're adding this extra element of time into it. If you're going to have that kind of potential of a loss, you need to have a 3 to 10x return, so that if a couple of these go bad and don't work out for you, it won't fucking matter. You'll still be outperforming everybody else around you. It's only in a macro situation where everything turned against you that you would have problems, and that's why we have Bitcoin. Alexander Doe, oh, I already read yours. Let me see. Albert, C-List 2022 was brutal, man, but good lessons were learned in that year. Yeah, if you think that was brutal, go back to 2008. Not to diminish that time frame, but the pandemic was scarier, and then 2008 was frightening as hell. I genuinely thought markets were going to collapse. And they could have. Like, if we wouldn't have passed a package over the weekend, they were worried that banks were going to start having runs on them. So it was a frightening situation. And then it changed the world forever, because we realized that we would never go back. We were going to print money till the end of time. All right, Andrew, I think 130 and Clean Spark is possible. Maybe. Let's see here. It's possible. I'd say a 10x is possible. I'd say if you're looking at 76, if you're looking at 76 as being the max, then you're going to be really safe and you're going to do insanely well. A 500% return is a good return. But could it double that? Yes, it totally can. But I don't care about that, because you have to think about this. Why, if you've made 500% in returns, let's say 8 months have passed and you're up 500% on Clean Spark, why would you risk losing 500% in returns, where this is the peak, just to double it one more time, when you could switch to maybe some other assets, or again, cash out half of it, leave half in, but you could make it to where maybe you get 700, 800% returns, but you don't get a full 1100, 1200, but you're diversified in other things that could benefit if the economy takes a shit. That's the way my brain thinks. I don't try to get, if I've made, and again, so if we say that we make it to the 75 range, then people that were invested in Clean Spark at the bottom made 4,300%. Why endanger 4,300% gains for an extra 100%? Why would you do that? So that's the way I want you guys to think of this when we get near the end of this cycle, is why risk so much that I've made and then potentially have this thing drop down to where you've only made 2,000 or maybe even 1,000%, or maybe nothing at all because you held it through a deep bear and the economy just fell apart. like just think about how you do things. Think about the asymmetric returns you have. Maybe dial the fuck out of CleanSpark and just hold Bitcoin, or cash in order to be able to invest in other opportunities, and or TMF, in order to be able to place a bet that if Trump gets elected, we will actually start to look to make government more efficient with the help of people like Elon Musk. And so there's a lot of plays that you can do that could make it to where you can lock in massive reward. And I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to do that. Yeah. Sealess plus Upstart fucked up junk company. Yeah, that's a rough one, dude. Lots of debt. DFI activated. What do you still consider as cheap for CleanSpark 2025 37 calls? Under 250. I think where we're at right now isn't bad. It's went up 20% in value since I bought them last week. But again, let's see here. No, it hasn't even. No, I'm sorry. My bad. It hasn't went up really anywhere, right? It's only up 0.9%. I was thinking about Hood. Hood is up 21.62%. I think CleanSpark is cheap as fuck right now. I mean, look at what we've dealt with in CleanSpark. This stock is amazing. This stock peaked in March at $24. It is still down 50%. It dropped 62% from its high. So you're looking at a year where it's still down 50%. In a market where we're likely to see Bitcoin start to do some asymmetric moves in the weeks and months ahead. So I personally, I don't know. I think it's a great opportunity right now. That's my take, dude. Right now. All right, Sealess, my MSTX goes up first. Yeah, that's a 1.5x, right? I think of MicroStrategy. So you're getting a multiplier there too, because I think MicroStrategy, I think of it kind of as a 2x multiplier, maybe a 3x multiplier of the underlying. So if you're doing 1.5, you're getting a little more than that. Sealess, Albert. I agree, but I also knew better. I had health problems distracting me. Yeah, not paying attention sucks. And just, again, pain and suffering, most people don't look at it. And especially if you had health problems bothering you, the last thing you want to look at is the market. And so people will just turn away, and that can be devastating too. Sean Marion, number one fan. Any opinion on DDOG and DT, please? I'll try and take a look at those in a second. Sealess, yep, I was using margin on short duration options. Oh my God, that's a fucking clusterfuck. Sealess. No wonder you got screwed, dude. I don't even like using margin. I could go off the adage from Warren Buffett, margin is one of three ways to lose all of your money, let alone when you're doing that with options. That's devastating. But I lost everything I had in 2008, so I can't judge you too harshly, right? So, Almir, CleanSpark shares, how long-term are you holding it? Not long. The options could be months. The shares could be just a couple. I'm sorry, the options a couple months. The shares, maybe at least 6 months to 12 months, 13 months right now, but not long. I'll probably, honestly, probably 6 to 9 months, 10 months, I'll be completely out of miners, most likely, or getting the fuck out. Sealess, yeah, I lost a ton in 2008, but also made a lot. Yeah, see, I was 100% long, and I didn't know how options worked. So I was borrowing against credit cards, so it was devastating for me. But I learned a lot about everything: bankruptcy, how credit cards work, and then over time, how options work, because I was very hesitant to touch them until I fully understood them. DeFi activated. How does one teach themselves to learn and understand macro in order to develop their own understanding and thesis and sources? It's such a complex subject. I don't know if there's going to be one place for you to be able to do that. I think I would work on understanding money first off. So I would look at things like the Bitcoin Standard, and then I would look at Jeff Booth's book, The Price of Tomorrow, to understand how technology impacts economies around the world. Those are two good ones to start with. And then there's probably some more advanced topics that you can get into. But hang out with me and ask questions on here too, man. If there's things you don't understand, I will not tell you you're an idiot. Well, maybe if you're really an asshole, I will. But I won't tell you you're an idiot. I want to help answer these questions for you guys so that you can understand whatever I'm talking about. So again, chat is meant for you guys to ask questions, and my job is to try and focus on them and make sure that I'm giving you good answers. C-list lost money shorting Rim, then made it back, made good money on Countrywide. Oh yeah, shorting Countrywide. That was my mortgage company. Poof, gone. Jeff L. How did you learn about options? Pain and suffering, Jeff. Pain and suffering. Again, I lost everything in 2008, so I learned what not to do. And then I taught myself everything because I didn't want to lose money again. I think if perseverance is a great educator, especially pain is a great educator. If you still want to succeed, you have to reevaluate and say, okay, that was an absolute failure. Why was it a failure? What am I going to do differently to ensure that that doesn't happen again? And then what can I learn to make sure that it doesn't happen again? And so I think I learned options from listening to everybody talk about them, from the dumbest of dumb initially, just to try and understand like anything I could about how options worked, to incredibly intelligent people who know more about options than any human being should ever have to. So I taught myself, and my options 101 video I think is brilliant and can help a lot of people. It's not one of those things where I just glorify it and tell you you're going to make $1 billion overnight. I tell you the risk to reward and when to use it and when not to. And I think that's an important lesson that a lot of people don't ever get or don't focus on. Heinz in Rich Dad Poor Dad is also a good book. I learned how debt isn't your enemy from that book. It can be, but if managed well, and so now, like, I'm a multimillionaire. I live in a house. My house, guys. You want to know how much how much I paid for it when I bought it? My house, I bought it. It's 2,700 plus square feet. I've renovated it myself. I did my own roofing. I built my basement. Okay. I did all these things. I knew nothing about any of that stuff, but I just Googled it, right? Look up a YouTube video. Okay. How do you roof a house? All right, cool. We'll figure it out. So I did all these things, but I bought my house years ago for $102,000. It was a very, very, very small amount of money that I purchased my home 4 years ago. And again, just learning about debt. I forget what my thought was on this one. Let me look at notes here and see where I was going with this. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, hold miners, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, just debt. Again, debt and looking at how much things gain in value. Maybe that was my thought process. Right now, my house is probably valued at over $400,000. And I was able to take out debt against that in order to be able to purchase investments with a long-term thesis. But here's what it was. I'm a multimillionaire. I'm worth about almost $3 million right now, right? And I live in a house that I bought for $102,000. That was my point, is that if you manage debt well, and don't get me wrong, I'm planning on building a bigger one. I have a goal of at least $10 million net worth before I look at building a bigger one, because I don't want it to exceed like 15 to 20% of my overall net worth, even if the interest rates are good and yada, yada, yada. I want to be balanced in my thought process and be conservative in nature. So if you know how to manage debt and you could buy a $102,000 house and live in it for decades and still be a multimillionaire and not feel the need to immediately, upgrade your lifestyle, then you can do amazing things with debt to be able to lower your tax obligations and live a good life. That was the message that I wanted to get across on that one. Les Walter, hoping to hold my miners until Feb or as 1 year time on taxes. Yes, I think that's smart. That's what I did with my shit coins last year. I bought most of them between January and March of the year, and so after March, they're long-term capital gains. Same thesis there for my non-IRA account. Exact same thesis, man. So I agree. David Chapinda, hey Jesse, how do you measure the right time to cash out miners? That's a tougher thing, but I would err on the side of caution, like what I was saying a second ago. If Bitcoin gets to the 150 range, I would be probably completely out of miners and invested in things that maybe are a lesser multiplier towards Bitcoin, maybe just like a regular Bitcoin ETF, to see if you can get some of that last inking gains out of it, but not have the same level of downside risk. Because the problem with miners is if they can go up 4 to 5x in returns, right, versus the underlying, they can do that same shit to the downside. I don't know how many of you have realized that over the last 9 months, but it can be just as painful. So that's where you remove those multipliers. Take advantage of the fact that if we get to 70 on CleanSpark and you've made 500% in returns, and you don't dial out of a decent amount of that and lock it into even just a Bitcoin ETF that will do 1x in returns versus 4 to 5x, I think you're probably a little crazy and a little riskier than I would be. So again, just be smart with the stuff, guys. And I will telegraph everything. Oh, one thing I did do, I did a little bit of trading today. I sold, I want to say like 20 grand worth of CleanSpark. I don't think I posted about it. I'll make sure to do that. But 20,000 in CleanSpark stock, and then I bought calls on that again today. Still sitting at that 0.9-ish% up since I bought them. But yes, just so you guys know. But I try to be transparent all the time and post my trades every single day. It's rare, maybe 5% or probably like 2 to 3% of my trades I don't get posted for some reason the day that I do them. But you guys basically see everything, so I think that's helpful too, and should hopefully. And then you can ask questions along the way, right? Sealess, I never could find the motivation to use the virtual stock trading services in the 2000s. Should have. Yeah, that probably would have been a good lesson to just doing some paper trading. I feel you. Sealess, pain and suffering is the best teacher. It really is. I don't recommend it, but it is the best teacher. Mick Jims, thank you for subscribing. Everybody that supports, I appreciate you guys. Sealess, understanding options takes years. Yep. Yan Kathao, any thoughts on lithium and ALB? I don't like lithium right now. The prices are going to continue to be devastated for a very long period of time. I've shown that, and it's not going to get better because you've got EV makers in China and across the United States that are going to be failing as they can't compete with Tesla and some of the other big EV makers like BYD. And so I think that lithium prices could be depressed for years. And I don't think Albemarle, whatever it is going to be a great option personally. Could be wrong about that. Maybe they get a bounce. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be a good investment. It's not. I can't see the thesis for it. C-list, just asking PRN prescriptions is the right way. Can take a decade to learn. All right, Brian Thurm, congrats on your daughter's martial arts competition. Thanks, man. I was really proud about that. I'll do a segue here real quick and just show my daughter. I was very proud of her. She got first. She got first in form and then second place in sparring, and her friend got the exact opposite of that. They both crushed all the other girls that were higher belts than them. And I'm really proud of her. She's a great kid, man. She's my life. David Chapinda, thanks, man. Keep it up. You too, buddy. McJims, SoFi on short-term options. I didn't like the options contracts for SoFi, so that's why I'm not really positioned into it. McJims, you can take a look at my Options 101 video and just take a look at all the contracts that are out there. I like at least a 3x plus multiplier, and I just wasn't seeing anything that was really enticing to me, so I'm not in it. So, but maybe you'll find something that you like that I didn't see. Albert, today's stream is one of the best ever. Thanks, dude. Broccoli Bob, what up, fam? David Chapinda, if EV is here to stay, what do you think about Aurora Innovation and true self-driving, truck self-driving? What does that say? What does that say? It's got this, I got this stupid heart thing, and it's like right over the word, truck self-driving. I think that, I think Tesla is the only self-driving anybody should worry about. That's my take. It's the only real, people don't, they discount Tesla's AI by so much, and I don't understand it. It's the best company on earth, and people are going to realize that soon enough. And they are the real AI play. All right. So we're going to jump in on that note. Tesla. We're going to jump into it real quick. So this is Cybertrucks are taking over Fort Worth. Tesla's new electric truck sightings have increased around the Metroplex as they gain in popularity. Here is Texas known for its pride in trucks. Here is the attorney, Brian E. Wilson, shows off his Cybertruck and its capabilities. Everybody I know who has one loves it. Initially, I got a lot. I got probably like a 30 to 40% hate on my truck versus compliments and people being excited and wanting to learn more about it. Now I'd say it's like 85% positive. And that number, I told my wife, I expect that to keep increasing as people start to see it and go, huh, and then learn about it and then change their minds and opinions. And I think that Elon kind of leaning to the right will change a lot of traditional truck drivers' opinions about the vehicle too over time. And they're going to start to understand that they don't have to hate it. And so I think that you're going to see a lot of that in the future. They're going to see things like this. They're going to see that the Cybertruck can power your torch, your welding torches. A 240 volt bed plug can power these things, and it's a real truck with real utility. So I think people are going to change their minds a lot on that. Patrick Reddy, let me see, managing insulin. All right. Sila said, I mean, whether managing insulin, beta blockers, migraine, absorbents. Okay. Gotcha. You're just talking about that other company. We could take a look at that in a sec. Patrick Reddy, I really think we're underestimating Trump's incarceration possibilities. I think that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If he gets incarcerated, he'll just win the presidency. Or he doesn't and Kamala wins. Either way, it doesn't matter in regard to Bitcoin. Will it matter towards Tesla? Tesla would be devastated if Kamala Harris won. You better understand that because she'll go after them like crazy. It's the platform of free speech, X, and the easiest way for them to attack X is through Tesla. They'll go after X too, but I think that would be bad. But I also think that Trump wins if he gets incarcerated because it just makes the case that Democrats can't win without cheating in elections and without incarcerating Trump and without allowing, by cheating, I mean I don't know, shipping in tens of millions of migrants and then giving them the ability to vote. Now, I'd love to be proven wrong on all these things, but that's the narrative that will be out there and it'll grow in strength. And so again, if you care about politics and polling and all this other stuff and want to know the truth, I do separate videos on that. I'll leave it there. Yes, Tesla is the best company on earth, best investment also, BTC also. Yeah, both of those are my favorite investments on this planet. Andrea Cassini, Jesse, you seem exposed to Bitcoin in many shapes and forms, but do you own? Yes, I do. I don't talk about my physical Bitcoin at all. Shale, low-res car, it's getting crazy. Silas, I mean, learning to understand options is like managing health conditions and when it takes certain... Oh, yeah, totally, dude. It's very much like that. It's very, very, very timing sensitive and, again, dangerous. All right, Harper Carroll says, Elon Musk is launching a school for children, and it launches next month. This is going to start in Texas. I so want my daughter to be in something like this. She's starting a new school because her last school was so bad that there's a kid who was going to JDC who was 9 years old. I don't want my daughter being in school with future criminals when they're 9. And then the school's doing nothing about it. So the idea of a Montessori-style school that is based on first principles and hands-on learning, collaboration, project-based learning, and focuses on STEM is just phenomenal to me. This first one will be a 40-acre plot right outside of Austin. It'll take 50 kids aged 3 to 9. Can you see if Trump wins the presidency, the entire educational system being transformed by Elon Musk? I can see that. And I think that's what's going to happen. All right. Steve Mark Ryan, it's about to start raining money for Tesla. So let's just listen. This is Mr. Wonderful, who sometimes can be an idiot, especially with Bitcoin and crypto that I don't even think he understands. But let me see here real quick. Oh, and I'll see how long this is. Yeah, I just want to do the beginning part. I'm not going to do the whole Steve Mark Ryan thing. If you guys don't listen to him, listen to him. He is brilliant. He's like me. He has a lot of attitude. Sometimes he's worse than me. Sometimes I'm worse. But he is brilliant, and he takes complex subjects and just streamlines them. His main focus is Tesla, though. That is it. Solving the money problem is super focused on Tesla, but let's listen to it here. And he gets a little political.
Today's video, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, talking about Elon Musk and Tesla.
I'm not sure if you were watching or listening, rather, to the Trump-Elon Musk conversation, we'll call it, last night on Twitter. But at one point, Elon Musk said that he would work in a Trump White House. And this is something President Trump had a lot of success with before. He is a businessman first, and he surrounds himself with smart business leaders who can take on different roles. It doesn't just have to be economy. It could be energy, all different kinds of stuff.
So once again, this really underscores the fact that Orange Man Bad and Elon Bad have an excellent working relationship. It doesn't mean they agree on everything. However, the fact that this idea has been floated, proposed and discussed, Musk volunteering his time to be part of a government efficiency commission, the fact that he and Musk had an epic 2-hour conversation on X discussing policy, the fact that they're talking regularly is the best possible thing that could happen for Tesla, assuming Trump is the president from 2024. Remember, Musk, via Tesla and SpaceX and other companies as well, is a huge employer. Over 100,000 people work for Tesla alone. Tesla scaling up everything from lithium refinement to robot production in the coming years. Just imagine what happens under a president that wants American manufacturing jobs, that wants America to be a leader in technology. The next 4 years are shaping up to be quite incredible for Tesla.
I 100% agree with everything that Steve just said. He's spot on. And he also was supportive when YouTube was demonetizing some of my videos. So thank you, Steve. You're a great dude.
This is not something that we're seeing from this Harris-Walz ticket.
You know, I have to disclose something. I am a huge fan of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Now, I know this may come as a shock to people watching, but me too. Now, look, I'm just going to say something obnoxious. Pick up on things
One sec.
best and
We're going to get ahead here.
loving their job.
Knows what he's doing. He has excellent, good thing for everybody in America. The guy's a no BS guy. He's very transparent, and he really knows what he's doing. He has executional skills. You may not like him. You may not like his communication styles, but look at what he's accomplished. If we could get more Elon Musk in the government, this country would not be in the situation it's in, divided so much.
Yeah.
It's hard to...
I 100% agree with that. Again, the rest of the episode is good too, but I don't agree with Mr. Wonderful often, but I do agree with him on this. Elon Musk and like his ability to be able to transform so many different industries within this country is one of the reasons I'm so proudly invested in his company, Tesla, and why I would invest in anything that he does. And I do plan on that. I plan on owning more. And if Starlink is spun off, SpaceX, I want to get involved in all these things. Because he is single-handedly changing the future of this country, along with Satoshi Nakamoto. Let's see, Andrea Cassini, Jesse, you seem... we already did that one. CLIS, I mean, learning to understand... Oh, yeah, we already did that. DeFi, CLIS. That's why I start private school with incoming class, then adding grades. Yeah, man, I so believe in Ad Astra and the concept of what they're doing there. Mr. CNBS messes with everybody. All right, so here, Dalton Brewer, he was just being interviewed by Haley, this other person I just love. She's a Brit. She's way more controlled and measured than I am. So is Dalton. He's very new to the investment world, but he's got a wisdom that I love. Anyway, he says in here, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tesla test its all-time high by the end of this year. Possible. Seems aggressive. Tesla benefits greatly from rate cuts. I agree with that. Strong Q3 and Q4. Tesla historically performs the best in the second half of the year. That is very true. From a stock standpoint and just execution standpoint, the latter part of the year is always better for them. Full self-driving 12.5 going wide soon, and possible robotaxi network coming online later this year. I agree with that. The energy awakening, I agree with that. Robotaxi day on 1010, I agree with that. Cybertruck, best-selling electric truck. Best-selling luxury vehicle. Over 100,000, Tesla. Best-selling luxury vehicle. Not just the best electric truck. Profitable by the end of the year. Yes, that's true. Optimus bots start working in Tesla factories. He's just saying there's so much vertical integration. There's so much growth here that people aren't factoring in that's going to be pressure to the upside. And I 100% agree with you, Dalton. You're very wise for somebody who started investing in the last several years. I wish I started off my investment career as wise as you are right now. So definitely follow that dude. You can subscribe to him too and help support him. Son of the Walkie said, breaking Elon Musk says Tesla will definitely solve full self-driving when Tesla solves level 5 autonomy. So again, just reiteration from Musk that they will solve it. He had a question before on whether or not they were capable of doing it. That's all gone. Also, my buddy Zero Hedge, not to be confused with the other one, he goes by Wick. He's got a nice little following. What do you got now? 137,000 followers. So I guess I'm catching up to him. I'm only like halfway. But anyway, he's great. And he talks about in this video how the touch points that we had for this downward trend line, how we broke above, fell back down, but we're testing up against it again. And I think that's really crucial for people to understand the breakout is just getting started on Tesla. And then Holmar's catalog says, I would like to own a larger stake in Tesla. I'm there with you, bro. That's my goal, is to own as much stock in Tesla, sell out of options, sell out of other things that have gave asymmetric returns, and load up in as much Tesla dollars and hedging that I can in the next year plus. And again, this says Tesla cars can see in spectrums that us mere mortals aren't unable to. I posted earlier, so I just want to show this to you. No, we got music playing, so we're not going to do that. But you can see how the rain is super heavy, but the spectrum of lights that Tesla can see are so much better. It's more like a LiDAR type thing where it can just penetrate through all of the noise and see way better than you are able to. And I think that a lot of people just simply don't understand that. Now, Holmar said when Elon said 5 to 10x better, he was actually underselling it. This comes from Reigns 1220. He said Elon arguably fulfilled all of his promises. 12.5.1.3 is 14x better overall and 4x safer than 12.36. That's the version I have because of my hardware 3 on my Model Y. Still waiting on the hardware 4 Cybertruck to be able to get the new version of FSD, this 12.5.13. It'll probably be even higher than that by the time we get it. 12.52, 53, 54, whatever. But if you look at this, again, Elon was talking about, 5 to 10x better, and it's already better than that with just this decent jump and iteration over a very, very short period of time, months. And it's just substantially better. When you look at miles to critical and disengagement, that looks good. But miles to disengagements multiplier, like as a whole, is much, much, much further out because of this. And that's awesome, man. That's almost 14x for the number of disengagements that occur. Tesla is an amazing company. People will recognize, they'll look, everything, hindsight is 2020, right? People will look back at Tesla and it will be very clear as to why the company was so successful as they are. But a lot of people don't know that today. So just remember this. Jeff Lutz, my boy. Is that Jeff Ellen here in chat? I don't know. Anyway, Tesla vehicles are the lowest cost to maintain over early and long life ownership when objectively compared to all other brands by Consumer Reports. Designs that break less often, fewer parts. Again, first principles, the best part is no part, and regionally localizing supply, repair are key drivers to total. Again, everything is like in the U.S. You're not dealing with 1,000 different part manufacturers all around the world. Rivian had to recently lower their production, I think, of the R1 vehicle because they didn't have a part. I mean, whether that's an excuse or not, it doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that Tesla doesn't have those problems. This is a great one to look at if you guys get a chance. Mario Knopfel says conferences coming soon. Goodbye Google. Goodbye Meta. Or goodbye Meet. Google Meet. Goodbye Zoom. When you can conference call on X. Oh, and then X Payments is coming. I talk about this stuff because it's all Elon, and the more powerful all of this gets, the more powerful Elon gets, and the more he'll be hated and the more he'll be a target. I'm not Lutz. Okay, good. Thanks, Jeff. I know he's talked to me a bunch of times on X, so I didn't know, so I'd had to check. All right, Doge Designer, if Elon Musk doesn't comply with our laws, the union will close X in Europe. Sandro Gozzi. The EU politicians appear to be blatantly interfering in U.S. elections and persistently pressuring X platform to enforce censorship. And then at the same time, again, just blatant threatening towards X and interfering in our elections and posting on X that they want to interfere in our elections. And X is just a beacon of truth. And even if they end up having to close down in the UK, people will know well in advance how to use VPNs because they're learning all that stuff right now by their tyrannical government. So I'm not too worried about that. If offices close down, people still can get access to the truth. Now, Sawyer Merritt, he said here August 16th, again, just like over the weekend, most pickup truck buyers are lifestyle buyers. I mean, I'm kind of that way. Even though I do use my bed a decent amount, especially for traveling and stuff. 80% of pickup trucks are bought for personal use only, not work. That's definitely me. 7% of truck owners frequently tow. So only 93% of them don't frequently tow. Only 29% occasionally tow, and 63% rarely or never tow. Most pickup trucks are used for shopping, running errands, etc. A lot of people act like lifestyle buyers don't make up the majority of pickup sales, but they do. Now, this is very important. I want to say a couple things in here. So, A, it tells us that the narrative about the towing isn't as important, and that really the majority of the people that are going to be buying this are doing it for like shopping errands and shit like that, right? Or pleasure driving or commuting and personal hauling is just a very, that's something it can do too. That towing is really the least important thing for these people. But here's the thing, I will argue, and I haven't done it yet with mine, but I've seen tons of videos. The towing experience is superior in a Tesla unless you're going really, really far distances right now and don't have the extended battery like on the Cybertruck. Otherwise, this thing can tow the shit out of things. And I showed a video. Well, I don't know if I showed it, but I will show it to you here soon. Of Tesla Model X, I think it was, towing a car. I don't know why that's in here. Let me kill that. Towing a boat, and it's fucking huge. And the power and thrust. And here's the thing: you have jackknifing that can happen when you're towing vehicles because you have all the engines in the front, right? And you have less weight in the back, and the hitch is in the back. So you have this problem where you could have a jackknife occur. And I saw one of these just a couple of weeks ago when I was traveling to another city a ways away. The back trailer, this person's camper, long ass camper, was just laying over along with their pickup truck on the side of the road. It had gotten picked up by the wind and jackknifed. Those kind of things do not happen. They do not happen in a Cybertruck because the weight is evenly distributed underneath the whole vehicle. And so it's very strong and powerful. It's got awesome torque. So you just don't have those problems. Sorry, I'm just trying to look to see if I can get this one picture. Oh, and Tesla in China. There's a Cybertruck in China with a 3C certification. This is crazy. I never expected the Cybertruck to be able to come to China. This is showing that somebody got it certified there. Whether or not we start seeing more of these soon will be very interesting. But yeah, that's just crazy. Now I can't find it, but I wanted to show you this towing one that was so cool, but it doesn't look like I can find it. So we'll go back here. We're going to go back and start looking at people's charts and get through that. I would probably do this for like another, I don't know, man, at least 20 minutes, if not longer. Silly Banks says, hey, Jesse, could you take a look at Amazon for the short-term move? Thanks a bunch. I will. Let's do it. Rock and roll, guys. I will try and look at, let me save my Baba chart so I have the stupid fucking thing. And to be clear, for anybody who's new here, I love the Chinese people. I hate the CCP and the dictatorship of Xi. So when I'm shitting on China, it's not doing it because I'm a racist. It's doing it because I don't like people that enslave millions of Muslims. Something else somebody tells me I'm racist towards all the time. Because I think that's a horrible thing to do to a population of people, irregardless of their religious beliefs. I don't think you sell them for body parts, and I don't think you imprison them and turn them into slaves. Call me crazy. Now, all right, let's look at this, man. Let's look at this. Amazon. Amazon's such a great stock. Let's see. Where were we in March 2020? Was that right over here? Nope, that was right here. So I'm going to draw it from March of 2020, and I'll get this saved out. And up here roughly. So we're drawing a trend-based fib extension because I think it's safe to say that we bottomed, at least from recent stuff. Now, we did go down 60%, right? Would have been a good idea to buy down here. Now, and I did have an Amazon short and made some money off of that, but it wasn't nearly enough, and I bailed out of it. But anyway, yeah, this would have been a good place to buy. Now, if you look here, we did find support on this is the weekly time frame on the .786, and then again, we had kind of another launch off the 50 moving weekly average. The 200 is curling down pretty good too, and it's right above us. I think Amazon could still do pretty good. I find it, I don't think it's likely that this move, I think if anything, we're going to see a 3 white soldiers here too. You can see this. It's about the same size in the weekly. I think we see another one where maybe we get up to 189 or something like that in short order. And if we close the week at that level, we have another 3 white soldiers. And that is a super bullish pattern that is lovely and would set us up for a nice launch to be able to start making our way towards the 316, this next fib level. So that's what I would expect. Maybe the top to be on Amazon is a doubling roughly of where we are today. And I think I won't look at the financials. Amazon's still in great shape. Amazon gets destroyed in an economic downturn, though, because they're doing really good with things like AWS. That's where all the money's coming in. Their physical businesses, though, do not do well in a major recession. That was evident too during the pandemic. During some of that, you could see where that's what drove the price down so hard. You had the initial launch off the pandemic where everybody was buying, but then when the market started to really roll over and we started to see the tightening in the Fed in 2022 and rates were getting raised at the most aggressive rate in history, that's where we really saw Amazon take a shit. And so I think it's very important to understand that Amazon will not do good, and that will probably be one of my hedges. That and Starbucks, and again maybe a hedge with I can't remember if it's Biddy or whatever that opposite inverted one is for Bitcoin. There might be some things like that where I use them as hedges along with TMF. That's kind of my list right now. It might change again in the future, but that's it. UPS is the next one here. Jason G says, "Can you look at UPS?" I will look at it. And I don't know too much about the shipping sector as far as like which ones are the best. I don't even have UPS on here. I'll add it real quick as my ticker. And again, I'm going to try and do more of these stock request ones to make sure that I'm getting to everybody. So that will be something I try and increase again in the future. So looking at UPS, it has hurt. And I think FedEx has done better. But again, I don't know them fundamentally well. So that's going to be a part that's missing here if I don't go too deep. Maybe I'll go more deep later. Now, I will say this. Let's draw a fib-based trend extension. And the reason I want to do that is March of 2020 was definitely the low. Arguably, I would argue that we saw the low recently here again. And so we're going to make an assumption right now that that was, in fact, the low. So I think in short order, you could get a move back up to 155. I think that's going to be pretty easy where you get this other resistance, and then we'll have to see what we do from there. But just looking at this chart, I would say that that's some easy upside in my opinion. I don't love this company. And again, I might need to evaluate that better because I just don't focus on it much. But you could get a 20% move pretty easily without even knowing the fundamentals and how well they're or how worse they're doing versus FedEx. And I'm real quickly going to pull up FedEx because I do want to just do a real quick visual comparison of their charts just to see how different they might be. So let me see, FedEx, FTX, okay. Yeah, see, look at how much better FedEx is. Look at how much bouncier FedEx is. So again, there could be like underlying business issues here. So that's one thing I want to say. I'll just preface it with that. And I'll save both these charts too. I'm actually going to rename the FedEx one so that it's more accurate to the actual underlying symbol. All right, so let's see. So FedEx we're done with. That's all. That's probably as far as I'll go right now. Kamau says, "Hey Jesse, please have a look at TSSI." I can do that. And if you guys do have any input on the things that you're asking me to look at, like you want me to look at the financials, you want me to, you've got additional data that you want me to consider when I'm looking these up for you. Anything you have that you think would be beneficial information that I might not know because I don't know the company is a good idea because it can help frame my thought process in a way that could provide more accurate information. Now, this chart is fucking insane. I don't know what this is, but I mean, I can tell you, this is basically the oscillation has occurred in this. If you look over here, even just from the beginning of the year, you went from 24 cents to $4.35. You 20x this stock. I don't know how I could recommend this as an investment at all. Let me look at the financials though. If you did own this stock, I mean, I'm sorry, you got 1,700% increase in this thing. So an 18x, my bad, I exaggerated. I want to apologize. That's still not bad for a year though. If you would have told me a really good reason why I should buy this when it was double bottoming here in January, I would have loved to have heard that. And that is the appropriate time to bring these up. TSSI is a data center play. Have been holding it since February. Okay, thank you. Oh wow, you've done well then, dude. I am very happy for you. If you even bought this in the 42-cent range and got a 10x, that's kick ass. Good for you. Let's look at the actual financials though to see if we can know anything for real about this company outside of just looking at a chart. What is the full name? Let me see if I can even find it. So it is TSS Inc. Let me see if I can find that. One second here. TSS. I don't even think I can find it in here. I'll try and refresh though. Sometimes, if you're on visualstocks.com, guys, it's my favorite site for this kind of stuff. Sometimes you have to refresh in order to be able to find it. So nope, it doesn't even look like it's there. It's so small. What was the market cap on this one? 103 million. So this thing was like 10 million, or less than that a while ago. So this is a crazy small company. We can see some of the financials here, and it looks like revenue's been dropping over the last several quarters, but you have seen net income pop a little bit. This is so small, I can't even look it up, but I mean, it looks great, man. It looks great. Before I look at that CXDO, I'm gonna go through some others here because I don't want to pass people up. MSTX, please and thank you. If that's just the if all MSTX is that 1.5 play, then I don't even think we should look at it, because now I'll pull it up real quick. But if it's just a multiplier to MicroStrategy, then I personally would focus on MicroStrategy, because that's the underlying. It's just like with the miners. I look at them and I find interest in them to see how they're doing over a shorter period of time. But yeah, this is, or I'm sorry, 1.75x play. So this thing is going to track really close outside of like the fact that it will drop because of theta decay. So this will track really close to MicroStrategy's price. So let's see. It's supposed to be a 1.75x. What did and it's went up 3% today. So let's see. So I would expect about 1.9% or something on MicroStrategy. So let's just go back to that again and real quick and see what it was. MicroStrategy was up 1.74. Yeah, so it's doing what it's supposed to do. But the chart I care about is MicroStrategy. It's going to be cleaner. You're going to get more information from it. So, and I think we're in a bounce in MicroStrategy, and I think that bounce is happening because I think we're in a bounce too on Bitcoin. And I think the fact that you're finding stability in MicroStrategy and then the Bitcoin miners around these levels is a great indicator of why Bitcoin is going to go up, because the most volatile pieces of it, the asymmetric bets, are stable. And that gives you a really good indication of a bottom from my experience when you see these things drop 60+% from their high. Tyler Casamenti, also, what are the biggest stocks that will benefit with the September rate cut and why? Companies like Tesla, smaller businesses, companies like Enphase, potentially. I don't know enough about their actually underlying to know how much they're going to be needed in the future versus Tesla, because there's this hardware, not hardware 3, but their storage pack, their third generation storage pack, doesn't need all the inverter stuff that comes with Enphase. And so I don't know how they'll do as a company, but companies that have had a lot of downward pressure because of high interest rates are the most likely to benefit. And the auto sector is very interest rate dependent. The real estate sector is very interest rate dependent, and small businesses are very interest rate dependent, because they might not advertise, they might not spend money on R&D. They have just a lot of pressure when the interest rate environment is high, where they can't easily borrow to expand CapEx, capital expenditures. They can't do that stuff. So these are the most likely to benefit in a rate reduction environment. So I don't think you can go wrong if you really know the real estate sector well, and if you know that Tesla is God mode for the auto sector and autonomy and everything else. I think that you'll do really good on those. And if you know some other small caps that could do well too from a better lending environment to service their debt, they'll benefit as well. So some of the ones that, even some that really suck, like Carvana, I wouldn't even invest in that company, but theoretically, maybe they receive some pressure relief. I don't know though. Within the auto sector, the only thing I would bet on is Tesla right now, because I think the others, there's just so much extra capacity, and they're old tech and nobody fucking cares about it. So I personally would just stick with Tesla, stick with things that you might understand in the real estate, and then buy some small caps that you believe in. Do the other stuff I'm doing, like Bitcoin, Tesla, and others. DeFi activated. I have a good idea about how to approach deepening my understanding of technical analysis and fundamentals, but how would one approach learning to break down macro and developing their own ideas and thesis? Again, just follow me, ask whatever questions you want. Global liquidity is one of the biggest drivers behind macro. And then you have geopolitical events around the world and understanding them. A lot of that goes to understanding the power dynamics of different countries around the world, right? Understanding that China is very dependent upon foreign direct investment and very dependent upon food from the rest of the world, and very dependent upon other resources from the rest of the world that they won't have direct access to, or have a major reduction if there's a war with Taiwan. Like, things like these are important, right? So macro is a tough subject though, because it literally means like everything. It's like looking at the big picture from up high, and there's so much content in it. So you have to really be interested in geopolitics. You have to be interested in economies around the world. You have to be interested in resources around the world. You have to be interested in wars around the world. You have to be interested in everything. So that's a tough one to say, man. But I look at it all. So, and that is not something that's easily learned in a day or two, but you definitely ask all the questions you want, and I'll try and answer them. Dennis Newber, what do you predict is the next play in 2 years time frame after you currently option plays, or do you foresee Bitcoin, Tesla, Palantir, the main? I do. Again, it's like a year out that I'm looking for a lot of these things to really do well, and Tesla will be a big one. I'll be hedging a lot of bets. I do want to be in Palantir because I think that that's a hedge against war, or a hedge for if war occurs. It's probably a better way to say that. So there will be a lot of things like that, and I've listed some of them already just in today's conversation, and we can talk a lot more. But I will my 10-year plan, definitely Bitcoin, Tesla. I would put Palantir on that list. I would put 20-year treasuries if Trump gets elected. And there's probably a slew of other companies that would be interesting too and that will do really well. And we'll evaluate along the way. It all depends on the dynamics. If Kamala gets elected, the dynamics of what to invest in and how to invest will be different. Bitcoin will benefit either way, but it will be dramatically different. If Trump gets in, it will be dramatically different. So this is a big thing. It's more important than people are alluding to, this election. It will have dramatic consequences because if we go down the path of socialism, we might never come out of it. So there's stuff that you have to consider that will be greatly impacted. Michael Fan, ASTS, please. I can't believe Boomer Mama is also in ASTS. Love your work. Boomer Mama. Now you got me. If nothing else, just because I'm like pseudo in love with her. She's way too, she's older than me. She's older than 46. But I still love that lady so much. She's just such a great human being. It's hard not to look at her and just think amazing. Don't tell her husband. ASTS. Oh, I've looked this one up before, and I think I even have it on my list, but this is crazy. What the actual fuck? It's up 24% today. The volume on this exploded in May. Exploded. This is violent. This is a $10 billion company. Oh, Space Mobile Inc. So it's a space company. All right, so let me look here real quick. So this looks super speculative, and it's had a massive run. It's a $10 billion company. It's not any joke, though, but it's up. One has to keep in mind this stock is up 1,800% since April. So it actually makes that other stock we were looking at earlier look a little pathetic because it did that since January, and this did it since April. So this is nuts. But let's look at the actual financials on it. And again, some of these smaller ones, these might be fun ones to take a look at. Here's what I don't like, though. No. All right, I love Boomer Mama, but I'm taking all that shit back right now. Unless there's some massive government contracts or news that you can provide me with, I would not fucking touch this. I wouldn't touch it because space is super fucking hard, and there's no income in 2023 whatsoever to speak of, and they lost $87 million. Their cash is diminishing year over year. They're diluting the shit out of you, and their expenses don't appear to be getting better. They have negative cash flow. There is nothing attractive about this stock whatsoever. It looks like GameStop to me, outside of one thing. Maybe there's something I'm missing. And here's the reason why. Institutional ownership is exploding. Short interest is in decline, even though it's still double digit. But somebody, for some reason, in Q1 of, again, they did this in Q2 of 2021. They bought a ton, insider activity, tons of shares, and they did a decent chunk, 25,000 shares in Q1 of 2024 too. Actually, that's in the thousands, so that's going to be a much bigger number. But so they're either they're head faking you or something, but that's probably like, look, so maybe something's changing. I don't know the fundamentals. You guys tell me what they are. She sold a third of it today. Probably a wise person. But look, so their Q3 2024 revenue is $115 million. So all of a sudden we went from having no revenue to having this. That is why this stock, there must have been some people that realized that this thing is going to be have a lot more revenue coming in the future. Whether that lasts, we only have one quarter's prediction here, and that's for Q3 of 2024. So there's something with that. But yeah, if she sold a third of it, I certainly don't give a fuck about it. And could this be a short opportunity? Maybe. It might be something where that's interesting, and I should add a note to take a look at it. I'll probably do that. But I wouldn't be buying into a stock that went up 1,800%. I think you'd have to be crazy to do that. So that's my caution there. Unless you have just some really good knowledge on the company that lets you know that it's going to go up 4x more from here. Jax, hello friends. Hope all is well. Thank you, sir. Het, Jesse, one word, Tesla to the moon. Yes, fuck yeah. Albert, hey Jesse, could you take a look at RHMDE potential short for the end of the Ukraine war? Ooh, interesting. It's a weird idea, and I like it. All right, let me take a look. We'll make a copy here real quick. What was it? RHMDE. What is this? You got to tell me more. What is this? You do. Okay, do we have confirmation that Kamala and Gary Gensler? No, we don't. Okay, so let me see what this is, because I got to see what this is. This is weird. What is it? RHM? Rheinmetall? Is it Rheinmetall? What? Can you let me know what the full ticker is in case I'm missing it here? I would love to know if this is Rheinmetall, a German company, or what this is. I don't know what this is. Maybe I'm not looking it up right. You said RHMDE. Is DE the country of origin? Is that what you're telling me? And it's just RHM? Let me know, dude, if you're still in here. Albert, what your thought is there. I'm going to look at some other notes here as I go down. I'm not one. Okay. Scrolling down. Dave Robinson. Hey, Jesse, would you look at the stock on the LON? At a stock on the LONC. Is that the... Okay, what is LON? I don't know. These are probably like some foreign... I'm going to save this real quick so I don't lose it. German tank and artillery maker. Okay, so it is a German company. Is that... Did I have the right one? Let me go back to that real quick. Is it just RHM? Is it this one right here? And which one is the right indice? I don't know enough about German stocks. I'll just take a look. So I don't even know how easily we'd have access to this one. And I don't know if... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to all play out. I don't know if we're still going to see... This gets complicated because... Rheinmetall. Okay, thank you. So I am in the right one. Okay, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. So, and I don't know if the Gitex exchange is right, but they probably have similar trading, so whatever. So here's my worry about this one. I don't know enough about the situation. The war coming to an end. Does that mean that the company goes down? I don't know. Maybe it could. Here's the thing. It might go up. Why might it go up? Because budgets might change to be able to ensure that they don't have to worry about anything weird going on. Like, I don't know. I just don't know enough. I don't know enough about contracts and all the fuzzy details to know if this is just a direct correlation of it will drop. But they're important to Ukraine. Yeah, so I just don't know. And again, does the war end in Ukraine? I don't know. Is Kamala going to be the president? I don't know. There's a lot of weird shit that comes with that I can't feel confident about making educated guesses because I just don't have the vision. So I can't say for sure that that's going to be great or not. I know I didn't get through all these today, guys, and I'm sorry if I missed any. I do think I'm going to probably call it here. Tomorrow I'll try and do a longer session where I get through all of the stocks and kind of run it to the end. So maybe like a 2.5-hour session tomorrow if it all works out. Also, tomorrow might be the start of my daughter's orientation. We'll have to see. I'll figure stuff out, but I'll let you guys know for sure. But I think I'm probably going to call it here, and then we'll go in more depth to these things later on tomorrow, or at the worst case on Wednesday, if we don't have a lot going on with Jackson Hole. Again, though, later tonight, I'm going to try and make that video where I kind of do a walkthrough and we listen to Jack Muller's, and he's so brilliant, guys. I'm going to try and add to some of his brilliant comments and understanding of macro and how the Fed works and how the U.S. dollar works and how these things work in conjunction with everything else. I'm going to try and add some understanding, I think, to some of the things that he says, and then also my own 2 cents, because I know these topics can be complicated. So I think that'll be a beneficial one. I'll probably be doing it like within the next hour, if anybody's interested in it. But otherwise, thank you guys very much. I love you. And you have a good day. I'm just going to pick something at random here to jam out to. We're going to go Michael Saylor. And I will talk to you guys later tonight for anybody that wants to listen. Bye.
What do you do with the Bitcoin besides it just gather value?
Real estate developers in New York City, they're not buying the real estate because they want to live in it.
But like, most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, we call them poor. We call them poor. People that use fiat currency, we call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. There's a name for them. We call them poor. We call them poor. Okay?
Right? Like, the point is, if you have the superior asset, it's going up forever, Laura. Forever.
Right, I mean, but I mean, we can all look Bitcoin sort of as...
Forever, Laura.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, we call them poor. We call them poor. People that use fiat currency, we call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. There's a name for them. We call them poor. 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 Okay?